Right, now you record it. Okay, now, today we're going to talk about ethical and sustainable consumption. Okay, and then now, before I proceed with this topic, okay, I just wanted to have a feel on your what do you call this your interaction or your past experience or your knowledge about sustainability, perhaps anything about environmental issues that you may aware of. Okay, let's start with Zarif. Zarif, Zarif Haikal.
Yes, sir.
Where are you, Zarif Haikal? Okay, Zarif Haikal. What are the sustainable issues or environmental issues that you may be aware of before?
I'm aware of right now. I think about the environmental issues is about the maybe the coronavirus right now.
Coronavirus. How is coronavirus had something to do with the environment?
Because it's effect around the global need. Macam mana nak cakap eh?
It's a global issue, is it?
It's a global issue which yang relate to macam mana saya nak cakap eh? Saya tak tahu macam nak explain now.
Try.
Macam ni macam the effect of our surrounding punya environmental, just macam contohnya the usage of petrol, the usage of cars, which cars pun affect the environmental system juga.
Okay, what is the effect about the petrol and the cars?
Since coronavirus happen, tak banyak orang boleh keluar rumah. And then only macam a very limited of cars macam beza dengan dulu.
Alright, okay.
Okay, so then boleh situ boleh nampak the impact of the coronavirus and the usage of the petrol from there.
So is it good or bad?
In a way, it's good, but it's good. It's a pros and cons situation, I say.
Okay, right. Usually, yeah, when you talk about coronavirus, sometimes nature has its own way of healing itself. Yes, when there's a virus, the worldwide spread of the virus, we are all locked down. We have to stay at home, so we using less petrol, meaning we go out less. So if we go out less, then we don't need much petrol. Then it causes us meaning not much petrol, meaning the air is cleaner. All right, because there's not much fuel burning. Yeah, you can see that. And talks about nature healing itself. One of the reason why we are in this mess. Okay, later on when we look at the slides, because the human populations or the world population. When we have a huge population, especially in the world, okay, population means it comes together with needs. It comes together with consumption. Okay, when we come with consumption, then we need more resources. We need to have more resources, food, minerals, all right, petrols, that, and it eats up on our resources. Yeah, food, for example. Okay, although I know that in Malaysia we wasted tons of food every day, but there are parts of the world who are people who are live in hungry. They are hungry and they live in hunger. So inequality of wealth, inequality distribution of wealth, right? So then if you need more spaces, because more people, more spaces needed, then you need to clear up more forest areas, okay, and it's damaging to the environment. So when I said that sometimes nature heal itself, nature need to cut down the populations perhaps. Okay, this is what I think. There's a lot of stories, right? Whereby it says that in order to save the world, we need to reduce the population, the human population. So you got all those stories about people releasing viruses, wars, that, just to cut down the human populations and their way of healing the world. All right. How about Rania? Rania, what is your experience, or what is your knowledge about sustainable or environmental issues?
Okay, so I believe that with is my voice echoing?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear your voice.
Uh, there's with the with people being like more consumptive, I guess, and um, what do you call it? Like products being not so environmentally friendly,
Mhm,
because in the old days, the development, I mean, like the components of the products are quite limited. I think that I think that it just boils down to like mass consumption of things, like things as simple as like uh shampoo or soap. It could be really like damaging to the environment, right?
mhm,
And but I also believe that lots of companies nowadays are starting to try to mitigate the issue, because like people have been showing signs of becoming more environmentally aware, like preferring natural products that are like not harmful, like cruelty-free products that don't test on animals and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that like the main problem with consumption is like just the just basically like the degree of it, like the scale of consumption is like so big that when in the old days it wouldn't have caused like so much harm on the environment, it does now, because there are so many people and so many users in this world. But I believe that people are slowly but surely trying to take steps to prevent like too much damage, or like try to actually help save the environment.
right. Okay. For this topic, what we're going to cover for this topic is one is the ethical consumption, meaning as marketer, okay, our job is to get people to buy. We get people to consume. The more people consume the product, it is good for the marketers. Meaning, basically our job is to get people to consume. And it also, because of that, it also lead to problem whereby there's overconsumption. We get people to buy things that they may not really require. We make people to believe that they require that particular product, and to consume more and more and more. So it leads to overconsumption. So by having this topic, um, I hope that being a marketer, we become an ethical marketer. All right. Um, well, it may be antithesis to marketing, whereby all this while when we talk about marketing, we need to get people to buy, buy, and buy and buy, meaning buy more. Okay, but then right now, being a responsible marketer, we need to make sure that people only buy things that they want. Okay, this is quite uh, it is quite a difficult issue to speak or to discuss. Why? Because our job to get people to buy, and then to change the perception, to change the perspective, to get people only buy things that they need or require, and not to overconsume. It's something which is very hard. Okay, very hard to for us to change the mindset. And secondly, the objective of this topic is to get marketers to come up with a product which is environmentally or sustainable product. And when we talk about that in this subject, whereby we talk about behavior, the consumer behavior, we try to understand why consumer wanted to buy a sustainable product and why consumer refrain from buying sustainable product or ethical product. So we wanted to know why people sometimes they shy away from buying product which is ethical or responsible, and we also need to learn on how to get people to buy ethical and sustainable product. Okay, so this is we're looking at the behavior side. We're looking at the psychological part. Hopefully, when we know why customer wanted to buy or why customer do not want to buy sustainable product, then we able to devise a marketing campaign which able to overcome those problems. Okay, if you look at a lot of journals, a lot of articles have been written on trying to predict um, the acceptance or the intention or purchase intention on green product, for example. If you go to the Mendeley, you go to the ResearchGate, there are a lot of articles on this, okay, whereby they do research on why people or the acceptance of green products. How, perhaps, but what troubles me is when I look into the articles, it shows that people are receptive. Okay, people are receptive for green product. People are receptive for what they call this sustainable product or ethical product. But I do not see that on the ground. Okay, I do not see that on the ground. I can every time I go to any stall, okay, I'm let's say at the roadside, okay, any stall, I can still people serving drinks with plastic straw, for example. And it kind of hard for me to explain to them, okay, I just want the drink, I do not want the straw. And they always give me the look, huh? You don't want straw? It's very hard for me to, no, I still get this reply or this reaction from business owner when you say that you do not want plastic straw. They always give me the look. What's wrong with this guy? How are you going to drink without the straw? Okay, so I do not see this on the ground. I do not see this being implemented. I keep on reading research saying that there's a lot of awareness, the high awareness on the population about the environment, but I do not see it on the ground. That is the problem. Um, Perhaps there must be something wrong with the respondent, must be something wrong with the research, or perhaps my observation is not wide enough. That's maybe one of the probability. Okay, but for today, we're going to look at some of the resistance. Okay, we're going to discuss on what are the resistance on green products. Why are we refrain to embrace this environmentally or ethical products? Right. Now let's look at next slide. Okay. Okay. This is just picture, no problem. Right. Contents. Okay. Contents. What are we going to look at? First, we're going to look at definitions and categories of ethical products. Then we look at ethics, ethics, personal ethics, and also public ethics. We're also going to look at disposal and recycling, and then principle of consumption. Then we're going to look at the consumption behavior. Now, okay, this is the world. Okay, 10 billion Earth population by 2050. Just now, Zarif Haikal talks about during the pandemic, people go out less, and because of that, they use less petrol for transportation. Yes, there is research done. The fuel consumption during pandemic for the past 2 years is quite low. All right, but then it makes the price very cheap. Okay, it makes price very cheap, so it make it very attractive. So by 10 billion people, okay, by 2050, with 10 billion, as I said just now, it also how to feed these 10 billion people. And these 10 billion people need clothing. There's still 10 billion people need somewhere to live. They need to eat. All right, how do we feed them? They need transport. They need education. See, all this requires resources. Yeah. I think yesterday. Okay, yesterday I watched Bloomberg, and there's a news about America now embarking on 2.5 trillion dollar on infrastructure. Okay, the reason being that they need to revamp their infrastructure, and also now they're going to challenge China for resources. Okay, because of they requires all this. They need to do a lot of buildings. They need to revamp their bridges, okay, infrastructure, everything. To do all this, they're going to fight with China for resources. Resources means minerals like iron, rare earth, and petrols, all right, everything. So all this going to require resources, and they say that America now going to compete with China for resources. Now, when I heard the news, okay, it troubles me because if these two superpowers are fighting for resources, where are these resources going to come from? All this development that which require resources, where all these resources will come from? So that is one of the issue. Okay, are we going to dig more mines, that? Are we going to drill more petroleum? That are we going to use more petroleum? So those are the issues. Those are what concern me. Okay, resources. Where we going to get all these resources? Because as we know that these resources are not renewable. Resources like the petrol, the crude oil, it's not renewable. All right, like tin, it's not renewable. All right, so it is something which troubles me somehow. Okay, and 10 billion people also requires food. How do we feed 10 billion people? I know in Malaysia we have a lot of food. We even throw away our foods every day. Every day Malaysian throw away tons of wasted or tons of leftovers food. We eat something and then we can't finish it, then we just throw away. And it's tons of wastage. Some part of the world, they do not have food. They can't even feed their citizen. So the unequal of distribution. But then when you require a lot of food, for example, like meat, cow meats, right? It what's wrong with cow meats? When you wanted to produce a lot of cow meats, what do you require?
The cow itself.
Yeah, the cow itself, but to have those cows, what do this cow needs?
Uh,
Grass, right? Grass. They need
yeah,
the cow itself need to eat. When is this the feedlot will come, and the farm they need to double up the area, the spaces of the farms, correct? Meaning
correct, sir.
when you need to double up the size of the farms, then what will happen? I mean, you need to clear a lot more forests. So that's one other issues, and then you have the issue about forest clearing is that the one who trap all this carbon dioxide, right? The carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is this forest. Okay, the forest will suck the carbon dioxide from the air and then put it in the store it under the ground. But if you cut all these grasses, you cut all these forests, the trees, everything, it releases the carbon dioxide to the air. Then this causes global warming. So you see how does it interrelated? You need ways to feed the population, but at the same time, by feeding this population, it causes other harm consequences to the environment. Okay, not mentioning about floods, everything. And when you clear out the forest, you causes floods, everything. So it's all interrelated. Um, so those are the problem with the what they call overpopulation. So by 2050, there will be 10 billions. I do not know what going to happen. Hmm? Right now, very scary. Okay, every time when I look into this issue, it scares me a lot. Okay, it shooks me to the core. Hmm? And then ethical consumption. Okay, ethical consumption means when you consume, okay, when you consume something, when you buy a product, what are the considerations that you make before you buy a product? Is it because of the price? Is it because of the colors, or is it are you going to look at the practice of the company that produced the product? Okay, so
The function.
the function, right? The function, perhaps. But what if? Okay, what if you knew that a product practice unethical business practice? For example, like they're using sweatshop, they're using child labor. Are you still going to buy that product? That is the issue. Or are you going to do something? Are you going to boycott? So we're going to look at this. Okay, we're going to look at this. So ethical consumption is whereby when a consumer buy a certain product, they will look at the business practice of that company. Okay, that's why how sometimes uh, companies like Body Shop, for example, they make it the ethics or ethical practice as their core message to the consumer. Okay, fair trade. Okay, no animal testing. So basically, they're selling the same thing. They're selling a beauty product. They're selling body bath. They're selling facial cleanser. The same as other manufacturer, the same other brand. But they make it a point to give a message to the consumer that their product is based on fair trade, meaning they pay the farmers a fair price. They do not use animal testing, and whatever the bottle, everything can be recycled. So they make it a point to make that ethical consumption as their key messages to the consumer. So, but you have also companies who are doesn't care, okay, about all these issues. So what is the role of the consumer in this whole debacle? So that is the issue. Hmm? Right. Now, let's go to the next slide. Okay, now, sometimes when you make a purchase decision, are you only looking at the price, but you also look at the political, social, and environmental consequences of their purchase? For example, like you may have heard about blood diamond, whereby diamonds extracted from certain African countries, um, based on this blood diamond, meaning to say, in sometimes in African countries previously, they have warlords, okay, and they use slave or child labor to extract all these what they call diamonds, everything, and then they sold it to the what they call this to the Western countries. Hmm? And those companies from Western countries sell it to the consumer at a very high price. Okay, that's why they call it blood diamond. The diamond that you have right now, perhaps it comes from a child slavery. It comes from blood and tears of slave in those African countries. So how do you feel when you have that diamond on you, or when you wear an attire, a cloth, all right, made from animal skin, from endangered animal skin? How do you feel about that? Are you going to, are you feel happy with that purchase? Are you going to be very feel guilty wearing those clothes? So those are the issues. When you make a purchase of a product or service, are you not concerned about the political, social, and environmental consequences of your purchase? So those are the issues. Those are something which been advocated by a lot of NGOs and um, personnel, or a normal person. Okay, so this is, I don't know. No, every time I talk about this issue, it's always troubles me. All right, I can't find a word to describe my feelings. Um, it really troubles me. So this is, I'm sorry to you guys. Talking about this issue is quite difficult for me, right? Because uh, it keeps me awake at night. I do not know why. So every time when I need to talk about this issue, talk about this topic to students, I always got this what do you call this? I can't find the word, because I really can't describe my feelings when I talk about these issues. Um, so the concern is how to how marketers can um, get people, get or to drum people to boycott certain product which is unethical. How marketers can get people to buy certain product which is ethical. So this is, I'm not talking about, when I talk about marketers, I'm not only talking about marketers for the product. I also talking to marketers who are working for those NGOs. When you're doing this advertisement campaign on the environment, on the climate change, on ethics, right? How do you change the consumer behavior? Okay, using your expertise in marketing. So these are the people that I'm talking to. So I hope uh, most of you guys, okay, when you become a marketer, you not only some of you may become a marketer for NGOs. Because marketing is about product, service, ideas, right, and places. So when you work for NGOs, you work for WWF, you work for organization which promotes this environmental awareness. Uh, these are the advertising skill or marketing skill that it requires to change the behavior of the consumers. So, yeah, where am I just now? I'm talking about this. Okay. For example, then we talk about, yeah, I'm talking about Body Shop just now. Okay, Body Shop. They make the ethical consumption as their core key messages. And then on the right, I think there's Lush. Okay, Lush is also making the same message to the consumer. They talks about sustainability and all that. Then at the bottom right is yeah, those cows. I just talked about just now about cows. Where do we get all these meats? How are we going to feed 10 billion people or 50 billion people in 2050? So we need more meats, and how we going to come up with all these meats? We need to clear out all these forests. And then what are the substitutes? What the alternative that we can do? Okay, those are the things, or those are the issue that marketers need to think of. How can we substitute, or what can we do to solve this problem? Body Shop and Lush, they have come up with their own solution. Ethical consumption. Then now it's your turn. Okay, your turn. When it comes to you, how can you, or what is your contribution to all these issues? Okay, what is your contribution to the global warming? What is your contribution to the environmental problem? What is your contribution to the social issues? So those are things that I always advocate to my students. Perhaps sometimes the problem is greed. The problem is greed. We always think about the profit, but we do not think about how long can we profit from that. So basically, it's blood money. Okay, blood money. When you advocate or your market for overconsumption, basically the blood is in your hand. Okay, you have the power to do something about it. Right. Okay. Then next slide. How do ethical consumer being segmented? Okay, this is something that we're going to talk about next week when we talk about market segmentation. Okay, segmentation, positioning, and targeting. But for this week, okay, you just think or put into your mind, how do you segment your product? How do you identify this group of people, or segment of people, or segment of consumer that receptive to the idea of ethical product? Okay, this just keep it in your mind, because we're going to talk about market segmentation next week. How willing are you to buy environmentally products? Right. Let us Muhammad Adli. Muhammad Adli, I wanted to hear from you. How willing are you to buy environmentally products?
Basically, yeah, I'm willing to buy the item that environmentally friendly.
Okay, all right. Next, we're going to look at what are the what makes people wanted to buy environmentally product. Okay, now Muhammad Ali, I wanted to ask you, why are you willing to buy product which is environmentally friendly?
Because it's prevent pollutions to and eco-friendly lah.
Okay, eco-friendly. Now, what makes you wanted to buy? Meaning to say, why being eco-friendly is important to you?
Because nowadays there are so many pollutions, yeah, in our earth.
And how do you get all this information?
By looking at the company background, the ingredients of the product, how they make, how is the activity.
My question is, how do you get the information about environmental issues?
Oh, from the news, from the media social. Nowadays we can read news in Facebook and in Instagram,
Right.
newspaper. Yeah.
Okay. So because why I ask you this question, because according to research, willingness to buy environmentally product based on eco-literacy, meaning the if the person have a high eco-literacy, they have high intention to buy eco-friendly products. The less eco-literacy of that person, then the less intention to buy environmental friendly product. So the percentage of likeliness or likelihood of a person to buy an environmentally friendly product depends on his or her eco-literacy. Okay, so eco-literacy is somewhere there whereby together with the environmental consciousness, willingness to pay more for green products, perceived behavior control, and eco-literacy. Meaning to say, now as a marketer, you know that the percentage of people to buy environmentally friendly product depends on the percentage of his or her eco-literacy. So, meaning to say, if you wanted to get people to buy eco-friendly product, you need to increase the eco-literacy of the public. So that is based on research, okay? Because if people do not have awareness, people do not understand the importance of being importance about the environment, so they will not buy eco-friendly products. Simple as that. So this is based on research. So the takeaway that we can get from this research is to increase the intention of the consumer to buy eco-friendly product, marketers need to increase the eco-literacy of the consumer. Okay, so that is the behavior, or that is the research that we learned today. So now, then research shows that consumer willingness to purchase environmentally product increase with eco-literacy. This is by Haartmen and Ibanez in 2006. And the impact of their purchase towards the environment. Now, there are two things here from Haartmen and Ibanez 2006. Two things that we learn here is the high eco-literacy, the high willingness to purchase, and also the purchaser or the consumer must be aware about the impact of their purchase towards the environment. Okay, so the eco-literacy would require the marketer to tell or to give awareness to the consumer about the impact of their purchase towards the environment. Two things, all right? Two things. One, to make awareness about the environment. Secondly, to make the awareness on the impact of the purchase towards the environment. So eco-literacy got two items. One, willingness to buy or awareness. Secondly, the awareness on the impact of the purchase towards the environment. That is eco-literacy. So now, let's assume that you wanted to become an ethical person. Before you making a purchase, you wanted to, let's say you today after this class, you decided to become more ethical in your purchase. So these are the lists. Okay, these are the lists that you can use before making any purchase. One, if that product is free range. Now, what's the meaning of free range? Free range means, for example, like chicken. Okay, chicken. You have a farm, then you put in all the chickens there. So free range means you let the chicken go free, roaming free. Right, that is free range farming. That is that is contrary to whereby you have chicken whereby you put in a very confined place. All right, so putting chicken in confined place is not a good ethical practice. Okay, so for example, let's say you wanted to buy chicken meat, for example, you look at the sources. Is this chicken free range in a free range farming, or is it chicken are put in the very confined place? So what does it make any sense? Is there any difference between chicken in free range and chicken in a confined place? Is there any difference? What's the difference?
The chicken is more healthy
What makes free range chicken is more healthy?
because it's not stressed of confined place. It's not stressed of
Yep, correct.
yeah.
Because
And then
when you put
uh,
in a confined place, right? Of course, the chicken doesn't roam around, so it's not very active. So you need to put in all this injection with vitamins, what do you call this, vaccine, that. Okay, so basically that chicken is like highly medicated, compared to free range chicken. Okay, or in Malay, what we call ayam kampung, is it? Ayam kampung means you let it free. Okay, you let it free, roaming in certain areas. So they become more healthy, they eat whatever they want, that, compared to chicken put it in the confined place. So this is if you wanted to become ethical lah, all right. Is it the product is based on fair trade? For example, like body shop just now, okay, whereby you pay the farmers a fair price, okay, a fair price. This is based on fair trade. Or is it locally grown? Mm, why is it important to see where there's the sources? Is it locally or um, grown from somewhere else? What does it make any difference if the things which is locally grown? Is there any difference? Let's say you buy an apple from Malaysia instead of you buy apple from the US. So what's the difference? What's the difference? Of course, the apple tastes different, but there's something else. How do you get
more fresh.
fresher, one thing. Secondly, how do you get an apple from the US to Malaysia, or an apple from US to Indonesia? How do you get those apple from US to your country?
Import-export activities, sir.
Import and export activities, which requires what?
Transportation.
Transportation requires
Cost
cost of what?
of transportation.
Okay, what contributes to the cost of transportation?
The
Distance.
shipping cost.
Shipping. Okay, let's take shipping for example. How do you get that ship to move?
Fuel.
Fuel, yes, fuel. So and then you need to get the apple from the farm to the nearest port, all right? Then you would require to get it from, let's say you put it in the lorry, then they send it to a port. The port, then they put it in a ship, then that ship goes to another port to your country. Then from the port of your country, they need to upload all those apple into another lorry and send it to the warehouse, then warehouse to the retailers, then retailers to you. I see there's a lot of carbon footprint, right? It requires a lot of transportation which fueled by this fossil energy. So your carbon footprint is too high. But if it is locally grown, then the transportation is much shorter. It means it may be the apple, put it in the lorry, and then they transport it into the nearest retailers. Then that's it. So it's shorter or lesser carbon footprint. So that is one of the reason. Secondly is to support local farmers lah. Okay, to support for local farmers. And then environmentally friendly, this one, yeah, okay, of course, it's very straightforward. Low on food miles. Just now when we talk about carbon footprint, non-sweatshop. Okay, what's the meaning of sweatshop? Who knows? Who knows what is a sweatshop?
A sweatshop is basically where companies that manufacture goods, usually from what I know, it's like for companies that produce clothing, they use like cheap labor, which is usually child labor in countries that have very, very cheap labor price, and they technically keep producing so much products, but they don't pay the laborers enough.
Yep.
Decently.
Yeah. Basically, you are right. Okay. And how do this term sweatshop come from? Okay, mostly when you say that cheap labor, yes, correct. But they put all this labor, right, in a very confined place. Okay, for example, like in a room, maybe it can fit like 20 people, but they put in like 50 people. Why? Because they need more labor. They need more manual labor. They ask them to do, for example, like shoes, clothing, that for these big companies. And this confined place, they do not have a very good ventilation. So just imagine that a room which can fit 20 people, but you put in 50 people, all right? Because you need more labor. 50 people in a very confined place, work from morning to night till evening, with less ventilation. So of course it become hot, right? That confined room become hot. So they sweat, right? They sweat. That's how the term sweatshop come into the picture. All right. So basically, yes, it's about cheap labor. It's about cheap labor, and this issue has been international issue because all these big labels, hmm, like all these luxury labels, they used sweatshop previously. They used sweatshop somewhere in the third world country, sometime in Vietnam, sometime in China last time. Okay, to do all this product for them. So this is what we call sweatshop. Carbon neutral. Okay, then just now I'm talking about carbon footprint, right? How can you become a carbon neutral? Now, a lot of companies, they're saying that they wanted to become carbon neutral by certain period. But at certain year, they wanted to become carbon neutral. What is the meaning of carbon neutral? Means you using less fossil fuel, and less fossil fuel. That is being carbon neutral. It can be from transportation, it can be through the productions, okay, by being carbon neutral. Animal cruelty free, no animal testing. And are you going to buy product which is recyclable, a product that can be recycled, or a product which manufactured from recycled materials? So those are recyclable. And sustainable, is your business practice sustainable? Sustainable means can you sustain your business practice, your current business practice, or then when you make a choice and all the above, before you make a purchase, then you need to check out all the above. So let's say today you decided to become ethical consumer, then you can use this list, okay, as a guide. Okay, to tell you the truth, I'm guilty of that free range. I never ask the sources of the chicken. All right, as long it's halal, then I just buy. I never check whether it is the chicken is free range or not, whether they put antibiotics, everything. I never asked that question. So sometimes most of us guilty for some unethical practice one of another. Hmm? But the key point is we try. Okay, we try our best to become ethical consumer. Now, whether wealth and social class affect ethical behavior. Previously, we talked about culture, we talk about subculture, and we talk about social class. As how social class affects the consumption behavior. For example, like um, top 20, okay, top 20 people, they buy branded goods. The B40, the bottom 40 people or consumer, they will buy cheap goods. But the question is how wealth and social class affect ethical behavior. Or if I may change the question, how wealth and social class affects the ethical buying pattern. What do you think? What's wrong with product which is ethically produced, like for example, like organic food, for example? What's wrong with organic food?
They tend to be more expensive.
Correct. It is organic food is good for the environment because they don't use pesticide, they don't use organic fertilizer, you know that. So it's good for the earth, right? But it tend to be expensive. So who can afford to buy this expensive organic food? Can
Wealthy
you ask,
people.
can you ask B40 consumer to buy organic food?
I don't think so, sir.
You think? Yeah, I also don't think so. So this is all right. This is a problem. All right. When we ask people or the consumer to buy responsibly, to buy organic food, but yet when you go to supermarket, you see all this organic vegetables and all that are all very expensive. Okay, very expensive. Well, if I go to the supermarket, I would take organic food, right? Or organic veggie. When my wife are looking the other way, right? Because if I take the organic food, then my wife organic veggie, then my wife like it's so expensive. We'll take the normal one, right? When I do the grocery, when my wife look the other way, then I just take the organic veggie, put in the basket, you know that. Okay, so uh, even my wife and I are very conscious on the price. What more about the B40? And so you can, um, but is that true? Okay, is that true? When you become wealthier, you become more ethical consumer. Is that true?
I would say not always,
Not
but
always, correct.
having the extra spending capacity does contribute to the choices we make.
Correct, correct. Because when you become more wealthy, you have more disposable income. You have a choice. Yeah, you have a choice now to become more ethical. Because both B40, they do not have choice. They do not have a choice. It's because their first instinct is to survive. So they go for cheaper goods, which may not be very ethically produced, may be environmentally harmful. So they do not have a choice unless we give them a choice. But for wealthy people, they have a choice. Okay, they have the means. But then the problem is, we can say that you have a choice, but how do we shape that behavior? How are we going to shape that they're going to make that choice? So that is the job of a marketer. All right. So how do you shape or how do you influence wealthy people to become ethical consumer? So those are the things that as marketer you need to take note of. Something that you may wanted to think. How do you contribute? What is your contribution in shaping the purchasing behavior of the wealthy people to buy ethical products? Right? If you ask me right now, I may not have the answer. Okay, I have not done the research on that, but I hope you guys can come up with the solutions. All right. Now, okay, this is someone thinking, right, about making ethical purchases. Should you buy product which is ethical, which have ethical characteristic? Or should I buy or even boycott product which do not have ethical characteristic? Okay, meaning first, positively, you're going to buy product which are produced sustainably using a sustainable processes or ethical processes. Negatively, you wanted to boycott product which unethically produced or practicing unethical practices. For example, I give you one example. Yeah, I use a lot. I do a lot of extreme sports activities, and previously I buy Monster Energy Drink. Okay, Monster Energy Drink instead of Red Bull because previously I found Red Bull is quite very sweet. I quite afraid about the sweetness of Red Bull, so I go and buy Monster Energy because at that point of time they have this promotion or this product which sell drinks which is less sweet. All right, less sweets. So I buy Monster Energy, but um, last year, okay, last year or last 2 years, there's an issue with Monster Energy. The issue is not about the product. Nothing to do with the product. The product is good. Okay, it's just that there's an issue about sexual harassment in Monster Energy company, whereby there's a lot of cases of sexual harassment which were swept under the carpet against the top management. Okay, not the middle management or whatnot, the top management. There's a allegation of sexual harassment against one of the top management in Monster Energy company, and it was swept under the carpet. So so that issue on sexual harassment had nothing to do with the product. But I make it a point to boycott that product. I'm not sure whether they have solved the issue, but at that point of time, I stopped buying what they call this Monster Energy drink, and I switched back to Red Bull. Okay, so you see that how these issues affecting the consumer decision to buy or not to buy certain product. Okay, so why do you do this? Okay, because for me, if I can't fight for those victims, what I can do is to just boycott those products. I'm telling the the company, change your behavior, or else I take the business somewhere else. Okay, I may not. If I alone doesn't buy Monster Energy, that do not put any dent on that company. No issue. Just one person boycotting our product. So what? But then if the consumer as a whole, okay, boycott those products, then it means something. It put a dent on the bottom line of the company. So so that is the power of the consumer, right? Now there's an issue about Malaysia palm oil, okay, whereby Malaysian palm oil has been banned from the US. Okay, US ban import from Malaysian palm oil company FGV. This issue is not about the health issue. The issue is about the underpayment, meaning cheap labor. Okay, cheap labor used to harvest the palm oil in FGV plantation. So that is the issue. Okay, so you can see that how unethical product or unethical practice can affect your bottom line. Okay, in this case, the US, a country, banned the import from Malaysian palm oil. So it's very damaging. I think it somehow it affects the palm oil price in Malaysia at that point of time, because the US banned imports. All right. So that is example on how unethical practice can affect your bottom line. Right. How about recycle? Now we go to the issue on recycling of products. So when you wanted to recycle a product, okay, there's a lot of ways to recycle the product. One is to keep the item. Meaning sometimes, for example, let's say you buy a can of Coca-Cola. Okay, a can of Coca-Cola. After you drink, you finish the content, you can either keep the item. Meaning to say you transform that can into, let's say, a pencil holder. This is where you keep the item. Or you can dispose the item permanently. This is where maybe you give it away. Okay, you give it away. Maybe in the trash can, or you put it into a recycle center. This is dispose of the item permanently. Or you dispose of the item temporarily, meaning you lend the item to someone else. Okay, of course, a tin of Coke is not a good example. Okay, but there are some item after you finish consume the item, the leftovers or the container, you can rent it out to someone else, or you can lend it to somebody else. Okay, so this is how you recycle a product. So then you may want to ask me, but Sharin, how is marketer fit into this system? Okay, how do marketer fit into the system? Well, as a marketer, you need to think of what kind of service or product which can fit into this system about recycling a product. How can you come up with a product which fit into this? It can be a product, can be a service. Anywhere in this cycle or anywhere in this diagram, something that you can, a product or service that you can offer to the consumer somewhere here. So that's why I say that being a marketer, you need to be creative, because there is a need for product to be recycled. So what is your contribution? What is your input on this? You can come up with a product or service that can fit into these processes. All right. So later on, we're going to look at this one of the example. Okay, Solomon is a sports attire company from France. They committed to reduce the environmental impact of all their products. In fact, all right, they have come up with this program whereby you can return your old shoes, okay, and then you can buy a new shoes at 50% discount. And they also come up with a running shoes, which made 100% from recycled materials. So this, when you say that, we have always have this notion, okay, especially in Malaysia, a Malaysian company, that if you wanted to do good, then it will eat up your profit. If you wanted to do good, you cannot make profit. It is always costs to do goods. But the mentality need to be changed. The perspective need to be changed. That you can profit while doing good. And this Solomon sports attire shows that. Okay, it shows that you can make profit and at the same time you make profit. You can care for the environment and at the same time you make profit. So everything is possible. It just requires a creative thinking. It just requires a change of perspective. Okay, so this is Solomon. Or you said I'm not sure whether you guys are familiar with Solomon product before. You guys familiar with Solomon?
Personally, I'm not, sir.
Right. How about the rest? How about Haziq?
I'm not, sir.
You're not familiar, but you're familiar with Nike, Adidas, Puma, and all that, right?
Yes.
Because Solomon is quite niche. It's from France. It's quite niche. It's especially for outdoors, especially for trail runners. Because right now, I come into contact with Solomon because I do a lot of trail running. I don't do I do less road running. I do a lot of trail running. And Solomon, they supply a lot of trail running shoes, trail running attire, that trail running equipment. So that's how I get into contact with Solomon. It's quite famous product in Europe, in Western countries. In Malaysia, it's only those who are engaged in trail running. They quite familiar with Solomon, but those who are only concentrating on road running, they're more familiar with Nike, Adidas, and all that. So that is Solomon. So I just wanted to show that you can also make profit while doing good. You can also make profit while being environmentally responsible. Okay. Now, we knew about the impact of overconsumption, and we knew about the issues on the environment. Okay, so this is, if I ask all of you here, every one of you have heard about the climate change. All of you heard about the environment. You know about the pollutions. All of us know about that. Okay, all of us know about that. So there's no issue. Okay, whether the only difference is how much do you know about the environmental issues? How much do you know about the overconsumption? So that's the only difference. But basically, all of us knew about this issue. But how is it not translated in our purchase behavior? Okay, we honestly ask ourselves. Okay, we knew about the environmental issues, we knew about the climate change, but why it is not translated in our purchase behavior? Why? Because if we can answer that question, because that answer will represent perhaps the rest of the market. You are a sample of the consumer market. So if you can answer this question, why we not translating our environmental awareness into our purchase behavior, that reason may be the same as other consumer. So what are the problem? Why? Is it because of lack of research about the environment? What do you think? Fifi Nuriti. Fifi, where are you, Fifi? Fifi, Fifi, awak kat mana? Fifi, where are you? Fifi. No. Farah Nur Asra.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. I wanted to discuss about the lack of purchasing environmentally friendly product. My first question is it because of lack of research? What do you think? there's lack of research on environment and it impact to the um, to what are our problems right now. Do you think that that is the problem, lack of research?
Maksud saya kenapa produk tu tak ada sambutan ke macam mana?
Ah, yes, but then soalan saya, produk itu tidak mendapat sambutan, adakah kerana ia tidak mempunyai banyak research tentang produk tersebut?
Betul. Sebab dia tak buat research sebelum dia jual.
Hmm. Any example?
Contoh, dia kena buat research apa yang tengah trending sekarang, apa keperluan yang banyak sekarang, and then baru dia marketkan benda tu. Kalau marketing tu tak kena dengan requirement, then probably is the reason produk tu tak jual lah.
Okay, what was the relevant with environmental issues or ethical consumption? Can you give me a sample or example of a product which is environmentally friendly product but do not have any traction towards the consumer, or the consumer do not want to buy that product? Do you have any example?
Example. Ubat diet sir.
But diet. What was Alright, okay. Right, what was
Ubat diet banyak sangat sir sampai dah tak
yeah, well, but then what was the connection between diet or health product with ethical and environmentally friendly product? Or perhaps health supplement may not be about environment but more about ethical products. Okay, you go there. You talk about ethical products. What yes?
Tak tahu lah.
Okay. Fifi, okay, before that, Fifi, I just wanted to welcome you back. All right, I know that you are in some health predicament last time. You got
Thank you sir.
your pink bracelet there. Right?
Ya betul. Yes.
You're now free from COVID-19.
Yeah, true.
I would like to welcome back enjoy your freedom.
Thank you sir. Tak duduk rumah dah.
Oh, that's why. All right.
Nah, sekarang kat rumah. Tapi sekarang dah boleh keluar.
Enjoying your freedom to the max. I can see that. Okay. Farah Nur Asra. Okay, Farah Nur Asra. Let's come back to the discussion, Farah Nur Asra. Where is Farah Nur Asra?
Ada sir.
Right, Farah Nur Asra. Is it because of lack of research, Farah Nur Asra?
Lack of research.
Minority dia cukup apa ni berjalan.
Is it based on the environment thingy?
It can be based on environment, it can be based on ethical consumption.
In my opinion, yes, because of lack of research and because lack of impact on the person's life. For example, macam it doesn't, rumah kita macam about plastic, for example. So people use plastic constantly in daily life. It's convenient, it's cheap. But actually there is a better way. You boleh bawa your own bag, but then you akan terlupa, then you have to purchase, so it costs a lot. So if in an environmental way, I think lack of research meaning macam macam mana nak cakap?
Take for example like plastic straw,
Apa dia sir?
like plastic straw.
Mm-hmm.
Can we have like can you find a cheap substitute to plastic straw?
A cheap substitute. Have you heard about the bamboo straw? So
Yeah.
it's cheaper than the metal one.
All right.
And then it's much more environmentally friendly because I understand about chopping bamboo apa semua, but it can be used in the long term. Macam because straw, if I pernah baca about this thing where you cannot recycle plastic straws because of their size. So having that alternative can lower the amount of plastic use.
Yes. Yeah. So that is just a plastic straw, right? So even plastic straw, you have problems to convince manufacturer to do R&D and substitute plastic straw with something else, right? So it requires R&D, it requires research and development to substitute all those products, for example, like plastic straw. Okay, so this requires research. Okay, look at research. And is it because high price? Is high price deter us from buying a responsible product?
Yes, it's the high cost because normally macam if you buy a bulk of plastic straws, it costs around RM2 something. You can get hundreds. But if you want to purchase a bamboo or a metal straw, you need it's high cost, and then after that you have to. It's very tedious that you have to because you literally have to clean it. If it's a store, you have to clean it. So as a customer, should take action and bring their own supplies for that, and then it can help lower the amount of cost in the way.
Yeah. You know why? Because I'm not sure whether this is a rational explanation or not. When we talk about plastic straw, right? I'm quite moved. I do not know. Maybe I'm quite emotional guy. Easily moved by something, right? I saw this video. I'm not sure whether you have seen this video or not. This video shows that they try to take out a plastic straw from the nose of that of that turtle. Have you seen that video? There's a that plastic straw stuck into the nose, inside the nose of this turtle, and this video show that they try to get it out. They try to get the plastic straw out of the nose of that turtle, and you can see that the blood coming out from the nose, everything, and you can see that the turtle is suffering. I'm not sure whether you have seen that video or not. Have you seen
I
the
did,
video?
sir.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I have, sir.
And I'm quite moved with that video. I feel so, you know, I know when the first time I saw the video, I'm actually cry. I don't know why. Because I got a lot of cats. Yeah, I got a lot of cats. I have 5 cats. So I imagine that what if that straw is inside one of my cats, inside the nose of one of my cats, and I can imagine how my cat will suffer if people try to get the straw out of the nose. So I'm quite moved in that video, see, because that's why I got this a thing against plastic straw, right? That because of that video. Okay, so um, um, those who took my advertisement and promotion class, right? Last time we talked about creating messages in advertisement, and one of the creative message is to give message of emotions, meaning you try to move the emotions of the consumer through your message. Okay, so that video really moved me. against plastic straw. So as marketer, for example, let's say you wanted to create um, social or environmental awareness, for example, you can use that kind of videos to move the emotions of the consumer. For example, like you wanted to talk about banning plastic straw, or you wanted to sell bamboo straw, for example. Instead of using plastic straw, you wanted to sell bamboo straw. Let's say you are the marketer for that bamboo straw. So you can use this kind of creative message to influence the emotions. You try to shape and to move the emotions of the consumer. Okay, by those graphical videos. That video really moved me emotionally. All right. Since that day, I got this thing against plastic straw. Right. Every time they give me plastic straw, I say I do not want plastic straw. Mhm. So I really move with that video. Okay. Now that is on high prices. Or we simply don't care. Is that a simple explanation that we do not want to buy environmentally friendly product or ethical product because we simply don't care? Is that the simple explanation? We simply don't care.
I won't say it's we don't care, but it's more like we like more practical things, sir. Like environmentally friendly stuff is kind of having like steps or procedures to do before we can use it. Like bamboo straw, we have to clean it. While plastic straw, we can just dispose it.
Mm. Yeah, but then because I care for that turtle, right? Because I care for that turtle, I willingly to wash my reusable straw each and every time.
Yes, so I think we need some trigger to make us aware of environmentally
Yes.
friendly products.
So am I wrong to say that consumers do not want to buy environmentally friendly product or ethically produced product just because the consumer just do not care?
I think I don't really 100% agree with that statement. I think that those of us who still have like a sense of like humanity and care for the environment, we do care. But sometimes I think it's more of feeling very insignificant, if
Mm-hmm.
you understand what I mean. Like for instance, like if you put your actions into a scale, you're like, okay, I will not use a plastic straw today. I will use like a bamboo straw or a metal straw. But how does that one small action actually, how can I see that very small action impact in the big picture? And sometimes I think that also is like, I think that some people would be like, um, okay, I maybe, for example, I don't have the means to actually afford more eco-friendly ethical products, but I see that a lot of people are already doing so. So I'm like, well, I'll just let them do it because I cannot do it. It's like something like that.
Yep. Yeah. Um, yeah, you're right. You're right, Rania. Because sometimes we feel insignificant. But that doesn't mean that we cannot do the change or we cannot start the change with ourselves. Meaning to say that we start with ourselves, right? Yes, you say that if I'm alone doing it, then the rest just don't care. So there's no significant consequences. But what if it started with me? It started with us. Hmm. Hmm. So that is the question. Meaning, how can you contribute in a very small way, in your very own way? All right. Perhaps it's more like the David against Goliath issue or you against the world issue. But isn't that romantic? Okay, now I'm become so emotional. And you know that Greta Thunberg. I think you guys know about Greta Thunberg, right? That school kids from Sweden or Denmark, something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, he alone or she alone. All right. She started with herself. Then her parents saw her passion. Then her parents encouraged her. Then there you are. Everyone know about Greta Thunberg. Um, she's still in high school, but then she speaks at the UN Assembly on the environment. He got this spat with what they call this Donald Trump on the environment, right? He just a small kids, but he go against the world. He go against the big countries, against the big corporations, against the former U.S. president. She talks in the UN Assembly. So it started with just one person. Start with one person. So isn't that beauty? Isn't that the beauty of it? You against the world. You against the world, right? So, all right, maybe just me being um, romanticize. I try to romanticize about taking on the world. I'm being emotional, but that's what I believe. All right, changes started with you. Changes start with yourself. If you can't change people, then you change yourself, and you can see the ball rolling, right? You need to have that conviction. Perhaps it's just me. Perhaps I do not know. Okay, perhaps maybe I'm too idealistic. I do not know. All right, let's move on. So the principle of sustainable consumption. Uh, there are there are a lot of principle of sustainable consumption, and it's quite very idealistic, like me. But I wanted to discuss about this greenwashing. Okay, why? Because as we discussed about environmental issues and all that, sometimes there are companies who are taking advantage on this. Their product is not environmentally friendly. They're not sustainable product, but they claim to be. They claim to be environmentally friendly product. So this is what we call greenwashing, meaning to say they try to conceive or they try to deceive consumer who are into this environment, ethical and all that, by saying that this their product is sustainable product, environmentally friendly product. So this is what we call greenwashing, claiming something which is not. Okay, so that is the meaning of greenwashing. Okay, the principle of sustainable consumption. Okay, there's a lot of principle on sustainable consumption. One is you need to know what is the meaning of consumption. Okay, this is no, this is quite straightforward. And then there's a issue on anti-consumerism or anti-consumerism. So what is this anti-consumerism? Okay, whereby um, especially you try to quash, okay, you try to quash the power of the consumer. And then there's terminology on ecological footprint. This is something like when we talk about carbon footprint, is similar to this. Okay, then there's a concept of overconsumption. I've been talking about overconsumption over and over again in this lecture, in this class, and whereby how we overconsume, how we buy something which we do not need, why um, we throw away our food leftovers. Okay, we just eat something little bit, then we throw away the rest. Okay, so this is overconsumption. We consume more than we require. And then this concept of simple living. Okay, meaning if we do not want to overconsume, but we need to consume anyway, meaning we consume as per our requirement. So simple living is about living within our means, living within what is just required for us to live. Okay, you do not need to be extravagant. Means you don't need to be to buy expensive things, or you do not need to buy. For example, you have 4 cars. For example, do you require 4 cars? Do you require 4 television? Do you require 5 smartphone? Do you require a lot of wardrobes? Okay, this is very sensitive. All right. My wife got a lot of wardrobes. Dia ada banyak wardrobes, and sometimes she just look at the cabinet and thinking and say to me, "I do not have anything to wear today." Then I look into the cabinet. Hey, there's a lot of things there to wear, but she just told me, "I do not have anything to wear today." So what's this? Okay, this is a bad habit. And then you have hyper consumption. Okay, hyper consumption means you consume, consume, and consume and consume. Hyper. All right. It's some sort like overconsumption. But overconsumption is hyperconsumption is worse than overconsumption. Hyperconsumption means you are the degree you try to you consume way much than you require. Okay, this is what we call hyperconsumption. And on the 29, okay, sometimes this company which sells environmentally friendly product, ethically friendly product, okay, sometimes this company or sometimes these entrepreneurs or sometimes these marketers, they're living in a sustainable marketing myopia. So what is this sustainable marketing myopia? It's like asking the consumer to buy environmental friendly product without question. Meaning to say, let's say I wanted to push, okay, I wanted to push for you to buy a metal straw, for example, okay, a metal straw. Then the consumer asks, hey, why should I buy metal straw? Then your only argument is it is environmentally friendly product. So no question, period. Buy. All right, so you're pressing the consumer to buy something which doesn't benefit or may not have a benefit or values to the customers. So these marketers, they're living in a sustainable marketing myopia because they think that the only reason why consumers should buy that product because it is environmentally friendly product, period, full stop. Whether that product give any benefit or value to the consumer, they do not care. If the consumer doesn't buy that product, then they label the consumer, you just doesn't care about the environment. So these marketers or these entrepreneurs or these companies, they're living in the sustainable marketing myopia. So if you wanted to sell a product which is environmental friendly, it is the same as any other product. Why? Because a product should be one. Okay, of course, your main argument is it need to improve environmentally or environmental quality. For example, like you're selling a biodegradable straw, for example. So it improve the quality of the environment, no doubt about that. But it also need to improve customer satisfaction. For example, I think there's one company who sells tea. I do not want to name the company. They're selling bubble tea. Yeah, they're selling bubble tea. So they jump into this bandwagon of no plastic straw. Why? Because they wanted to jump into the wagon of this environment. So instead of using plastic straw, they change into a paper straw. A paper straw. Well, good enough, all right? Because paper straw can be recycled. Then the paper straw made from a recycled paper anyway. So, well, it's good. for the environment, but it doesn't improve the customer satisfaction. Why? Because the paper straw, after a while, it become, you can't use that straw anymore because it become soggy. It become what do you call that?
Too wet.
Yeah, all right. You can't use that
Yes,
straw.
sir.
So does it improve the customer satisfaction? No. But does it good for environment? Yes. But is it good for the customer? No. So when you need to come up with a product which is environmentally friendly product, you need to make sure that it also improve the customer satisfaction. Because if you doesn't improve the satisfaction of the customer, so the customer will not buy into the idea of the new product. Okay, so that is the problem with this environmental friendly product. It may be good for the environment, but somehow it doesn't give any benefit to the customers. So you can't get that buy-in. So you see from our discussion today, if I ask you, or if you ask me whether we should care about the environment, no doubt about it. Yes, we need to care about our environment. Do we need to become more ethical in our business or in our marketing? Yes, we need to be. We have to be ethical in our practices, business practices. But does that business or the business model need to able to satisfy the customer needs and want? Yes, of course, you need to satisfy the customer needs and want, because that is the essence or the core of marketing. Marketing is about satisfying the needs and want of the customer. If the product doesn't satisfy the needs and want of the customer, then it's not marketing. You can't sell that product profitably. Why? Because we need to change the perspective. Like I said in the early in the lecture, we need to change the perspective. Being good doesn't mean that it costs money. Being good doesn't mean that you doesn't make any profit. The new perspective is you need to make profit, and at the same time you're able to take care of these social issues. That social issues need to be in the core of your business processes. So that is the challenges. Okay, yeah, right. So I end my lecture today. So that's it.
Sir, may I share something?
Mm,
Building on your point, it's actually quite related to the earlier point about the sustainable marketing myopia, and it's kind of building on. I think you touched upon it briefly about how companies actually their products are not they're not actually like 100% like eco-friendly or ethical, but they market it as it is.
yeah.
Well, I think that building on your point earlier that you mentioned that what is it called? Eco-literacy is important for the buyer to actually consume ethical or like environmentally friendly products. I also believe that that eco-literacy goes hand in hand with like actual literacy itself, because one interesting that I found that that I think among the ladies, skincare is becoming a very big industry right now, and with the many brands, people are being especially concerned with like animal testing, and you probably might know that the cruelty-free logo that a product has is the logo with the bunny, the rabbit on it. It's like the white rabbit with the pink ears, if I'm not mistaken. And that's like the official logo, if I'm not mistaken. Like it's regulated by PETA, if I'm not mistaken. But sometimes there are brands who actually use logos that are similar to that bunny, and then those people who are not really familiar with it, they just think, oh, if there's a bunny logo, then that means it's cruelty free. So that makes the marketers actually take advantage of like the consumers eco literacy, like awareness, yet lack of general product literacy itself. So I think that, and it happens a lot because I believe a lot of people kind of overlook that. I mean, personally, not for me because I'm the I like reading, so I'm this kind of person who will like read anything and everything. I would read like medicine labels and stuff like that that people actually usually overlook. But for people, and I would say that a lot of people like are triggered more with like the things that you see at the surface. It's kind of actually sometimes it makes the marketing like like a boomerang to the actual like ethical and environmentally friendly narrative itself. So I believe that in addition to having like eco literacy and the product literacy itself, I think that those kinds of like ethical and eco-friendly claims should actually be like more regulated because it's actually like those claims should only be able to originate from like the official institutions, like for cruelty free it's PETA, and for like other things there are formal institutions for that. So I think that sometimes the marketers like kind of take advantage of the awareness itself, but then on the consumer's end they lack the literacy and the willingness to actually like thoroughly study something before they consume it.
Yes, very well said. Very well said. Okay, on that note, right? Um, I think there is a company in the US. Okay, I found this when I watched this Bloomberg Technology. Um, there is a company in the US whereby they come up with these apps, right? Come up with these apps whereby using these apps, you just scan the product. Okay, using your apps, meaning you using your smartphone, you go and scan the product, and that after scan, then the apps will tell you the origin of that product, the history of the product, and whether it is have any issue with the environment, have any issue with the ethics, that. So all the information will come up from the in your smartphone. But unfortunately, it's still in the US, right? They according to the interview, they're going to expand to other countries, but it may take some time. Okay, because they need to put people on the ground and people in the particular countries to do research about the product in the local product and all that. But in the US, yes, there is a company already. They already have invented that apps whereby the apps able to scan a product and tell you whether there's any environmental issues with the product or not. So you see, when I said about a marketer becoming very creative about all these environmental issues, ethical issues, everything. So this is an example whereby a marketer or entrepreneur using this issue or using this concern, a consumer concern about ethics and about environment, to come up with a business model or come up with a business, come up with an apps, all right, to address this kind of concern. Okay, so this is something that, well, it is in the US. You do not have the apps or similar apps in Malaysia or in Indonesia. So you may wanted to do a similar apps in Malaysia or Indonesia, perhaps, right? Because I don't think the apps had reached Malaysia or Indonesia yet, right now. It may take years to come to our countries. And you see, like Uber, for example, right? Uber started in the US, and then suddenly you have a similar kind of service in Southeast Asia with Grab. Or Indonesia, you have Gojek, that. Okay, which somehow the business or the business model is quite kind of similar. Okay, and how and why Uber unable to go to the Southeast Asia? Because it takes time for Uber to come here. But then people here in Southeast Asia already see that the business model can work, so they do it here in Southeast Asia. All right, Grab started in Singapore, and then in Indonesia you have Gojek, that, which offers a similar business model. Okay, so these apps, which enable the consumer to trace the origin of the product is still in the US. Okay, so there's no restriction for you to come up with a similar act in our or in your country. Right, so I'm just giving you this business idea, coming up with these apps. If you think that there is a market here in this region for that particular apps, then by all means go for it. I do not know how to do apps, right? I can just give you the idea, so you can proceed with the idea. Do not have to pay me royalty some more. You can do your own and become millionaires and billionaires, you know that. All right, any other question? Ada soalan? Hana Bashira, I have not heard from you today, Hana Bashira.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
You're here. You okay, Hana Bashira?
I'm okay.
Go and watch the video about the turtle, Hana Bashira Kalis.
Okay, sir.
All right. If there's no question, so that's it for me for today. All right. So next week we're going to talk about the what do you call this? Segmentation, positioning, and targeting. Okay, or segmentation, targeting, and positioning (STP). But before that, I would like to remind you guys. You see that in the VLE, there's a lot of other reading materials, right? So just a reminder, you just go and read on your own, because those articles, those extra reading materials, videos, sometimes it is in the video form, sometimes in the written form. There are issues that I don't cover in my lecture. So those are the extra things. And most of the time, those extra things come during the exam. Okay. Because what I teach or what I give during this lecture is just a basic, just a skeleton. You need to give the flesh, the blood, and the soul to that skeleton. If you just rely on my lecture, on my online class, you just get the skeleton, the rangka, all right? The rangka, the skeleton. It may not be complete. Definitely it's not complete. So you need to complete that skeleton. You need to give the blood, flesh, and the soul, especially the soul, to that skeleton, okay, to make it alive. Yeah, that's it. But before that, I would like to remind about your individual assignment. Okay, for the individual assignment, you need to submit on the 11th of April, which is next week on Sunday. But for Rania, Delphian, Hani, and the rest, okay, you join in at the 4th week. So I give you another 3 weeks after 11, meaning 11 April, I give you another 3 weeks for you to submit your individual assignment. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. Have you guys seen the individual assignment? I hope you have. Then you submit, okay, based on the timeline. Based on the timelines, yeah?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, if no question, then that's it for today. All right, that's it for today. So I'll see you next week on the STP, okay, segmentation, targeting, and positioning.